Recording in progress.
Wendy, can you hear me? Wendy,
You are muted.
Wendy, I am making you the host. You're muted. What's good? What's that? What's good? What was good? What is that?
There, how's that?
There you go. Oh,
Now, is this recording since you changed hosts?
it is recording.
Beautiful. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
All right, let's get to it. Call to order, we're all here. First thing, minutes of April 10th. People have a chance to take a look at them?
I looked them over real quick. You'll find me.
Yeah, just a minor thing. On page 3, down towards the bottom. About
Hold on,
committee members.
Let me grab them.
Yeah,
Thanks. Sorry, this is a different setup for me, so. Page 3 at the bottom, what's going on there, Paul?
committee members contacting towns. The last bullet point
Yep,
says each committee member will contact the towns to gather the information,
yeah,
which kind of sounds like each of us would contact all of the towns, and I think we mean
No,
that each
and-
person will contact a few of the towns or selected
yeah, and
numbers.
that's one of the things on the agenda for tonight is to
Oh.
identify the towns.
No, maybe,
Not here again. Sure.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
You need it? Maybe. I don't know.
Can you guys hear me?
There we go. Now I can't find them.
Hold on.
there,
Hey, we got you.
we're good.
Okay, cool. I can make that change.
I thought you probably could.
After tonight's discussion, it'll be obvious, but I certainly can make the change there too.
Yeah,
Okay, with that change, everything approved?
yeah. Approve.
All right. Brian. What's going on in your world? I don't see
Okay,
you, Brian.
So you can hear me, right?
I can hear you.
Okay, so I made a phone call. I've been on the phone with DEP. They've assigned a new person to my application. I'm waiting for a phone call back from him. And we'll set up a date for a site visit. That's it.
All right. Next thing is annual report. Now, and this is the blurb that goes into the town report, the annual town report that's given out at town meeting. And I think it's been a while since the Solid Waste Committee has had any report in there. And so I was asked to go ahead and do one. So I drafted one, but would love, if you guys have read it. One thing I do want to say, I did have the last Solid Waste Committee report, which I think was, Brian, was it 2 years ago? Because I didn't, it wasn't
probably
in last year's.
3 years ago.
3 years ago.
Yes.
I looked at that, and some of the way that was set up was dictated the first paragraph there. That committee in their report very clearly said, we will do this, we will do that. And I thought it was important that the town knows that although we're working on this and we're doing all the diligence and we're making the recommendation, that, you know, essentially we're an advisory committee. So we don't have, other than, you know, our tasks and projects ahead of us, anything we do has got to go before the select board. So that's kind of why that first paragraph was in there. And then, as you can see, I laid it out, and I did, Brian also puts a piece in, and thank you for sharing that with me, Brian, because I was going to put some of the stuff in there, but you already had that covered, and so I didn't want to put too much in. I did want to make sure that I put in the 4 purposes that we have in the ordinance now, because I think it's important that the town knows what we're looking to do, kind of stuff, and we can talk to it. But anyway, you guys have seen it. Do you have any thoughts, things that maybe we should talk about that I didn't put in? Or good to go? They need it rather quickly. So I just wanted to get any input from you guys.
What's rather quickly? Like
What?
now, like now. I
Yeah,
got a couple of comments, I'll get them over to you tonight.
you'll do,
They're
I'm
minor.
sorry. What did you say, Paul?
I said I got a couple of minor suggestions, I'll get them over to you tonight, and if you,
Okay,
they're not
Great.
major, take them, don't, they're not critical, so.
Yeah, I've got one, but it's minor and I'll send it along to you.
yeah, if you guys could send those emails to me tonight, I'll make the edits and I'll get it over to Lisa. Pat, any thoughts? You're the one constant from the last committee. And I know this is a little bit different tone than the last one. I just wondered if you had any thoughts or if you were good with it.
The one comment that sticks out to me is you are also welcome to any of our meetings. We meet at 6 p.m. on the second and fourth Wednesdays. Are we gonna keep that schedule up? If so, yes, it should be in here. If not, it shouldn't be in here.
Tell you what I'll do. I'll say currently, that's our schedule. Please check. As we sometimes have ad hoc meetings, please check the town calendar for final. Okay.
Guess follow-up question on that. I know it wasn't your last meeting, I feel like I'm yelling because she's. Sorry. Is that the intent, or, because I know we talked about potentially scaling back to once a month, so I just,
Summer at least.
is that just for the summer?
Yeah, we were talking about just doing that for the summer, because I got to tell you, replacing plumber is going to require some work, and I'm just hoping if we get a good enough start on it that we can take some time off in the summer.
Okay. That's all, sorry. Follow up about that.
Okay, I'll look for your things. I'm taking the minutes while we're talking, so I'm trying to type as fast as I can.
We'll talk slower.
No, stop it, guys. All right. Good. I'll look for those emails from you guys, make the changes and get it to Lisa. So Lisa should have it hopefully tomorrow morning at the latest. Okay, the next thing on the agenda is we had talked about the commercial hauler form. I took a stab at it, still keeping it to one page, but adding some stuff that we talked about, including authorized signature, so that, you know, basically, I think that's an important one. And then just initial to indicate compliance with state of Maine insurance requirements. We don't need to look at it. If they initial it and say, yes, we meet the insurance requirements, and the authorized person signs it, that's good. Brian, thoughts from you. Was there anything in here that was not said well? Or I think you noticed, I put information for the year 24. I put an average number of residential units. Your old form just picked like a week in December and used that as a, you know, a proxy for the whole year. And I just wondered whether we should let them talk about average units.
Right, average is fine.
Is that
Okay.
average for the year, average per month?
That's a good thought. I make sure it says average, monthly average. That's what you're looking for, Brian, right? Monthly average?
Well, we're looking at year, annual.
So are you looking,
So you're,
but
Year
but
long.
is, are you looking for them? You're looking for annual. Are you looking for a weekly average? So average per week, average per month?
It varies, so it would be annually, an average for the year.
Okay, so unless you have more than 1 year, it wouldn't be an average, it would be a number.
Well, yeah, right, yeah.
Yeah, so you've got the numerator, which is the number of times in the year, the total number, but what do you want as the denominator? Do you want to, how many they service on average per week? How many they service on average per month?
Well, what they were giving us is per week, and then we were multiplying that and coming up with an annual number.
So are you looking for total annual and you don't care about average at all?
Yeah, they can give me their total yeah, total. I'm
Okay.
trying to bring it up. I don't have it in front of me.
I've got it in front of me. Here's what it says. Number
Yeah,
of
but I don't have it in
dumpsters.
front of me.
Are you guys making fun of me?
No, not at all. I'm trying to locate it in my emails.
Yeah, I've got the old one. It says, number of dumpsters serviced by the hauler in Bodenham during the first week of December 2023. So when you get that number, what do you do with it?
We take that information, we multiply it, and I give it to the state when they ask for it.
Okay, what do you multiply it by? 52?
52.
Okay,
And is that in tonnage or yardage?
That is in tonnage,
So you don't care about yardage, just tonnage.
right?
oh, we don't care about yardage. It was in, you've got yardage on the old form. Do we care about yardage?
Yardage on the old form is for the size of dumpsters that they have out.
Okay, do we need that?
Not if I have the tonnage, no.
Okay, so that's good. Then we can pare the form down anymore.
Where it says a number of residential units serviced. I think that means dumpsters, not houses.
It would be the number of dumpsters, yes.
Yeah, would it be clearer if we just said dumpsters or
I
containers?
think, if I'm not mistaken, Paul, I think there are some commercial haulers out there that will pick up bags. I don't know if or how many of them work in Bodenham, but there are some that will go by a bag as opposed to giving you a dumpster.
So in this block where it says average number of residential units serviced, are we looking for the number of stops they make? Or the number of containers?
How about, can we just say average number of units serviced? And that way it would, that would include if they did any
Is the
businesses.
unit a dumpster? That's my question.
I
So you're
think,
saying like an apartment building might have.
Might have a couple. Or a business might have a couple.
Brian, what do we care about? I don't know any businesses that have a couple, but if they did we want to know that?
The only location I'm aware of that has multiple dumpsters is the apartment complex on Rat Road, Preble Road.
Yeah.
Yep. Do we want
That's the
to
only-
know, do we want to know how many dumpsters they have, or do we want to know just that they service that location?
Honestly, their tonnage is really all I need. I don't need to know how many dumpsters are out there.
Do we, all right, so can we remove number of units serviced in total? Can we remove that request in total?
Sounds like it.
It doesn't change the tonnage number that we need, so I don't see why not. The only reason we would need it is to know how many people are serviced by plumber or the town designated hauler. And people who pay to haul, but
That's, it might be nice to have. But we
We
also
can-
kind of.
What we can,
contractual-
we can say
So-
number of locations,
Yeah,
and that locations
Well,
are covered, it would,
Covered in my trash tag. We won't know how many homes or businesses were served by.
yeah, we don't, yeah, that, but we're not talking about trash tags, we're talking about the private guys.
Right.
Brian,
We-
would you have any use for information that if we just said how many locations?
If whatever the committee wants, I don't need that information. I need tonnage.
Okay, guys, do you think if we put in number of locations served, that might be beneficial?
It might be.
yeah, it might be down the road, you know, when we're trying to
Okay.
figure out. If we have to come up with a new model for trash collection in town. And as far as apartment buildings are, I think there are very few in town except for the one on Purple Street, so I don't think it skews the numbers really.
Yeah,
And if we ask for location,
Number of locations.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
Paul, I didn't hear that.
Just number of locations.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
You see on the report or on the form, I added the definitions from the current ordinance. I'll work up a form that also has stuff from the new ordinance. And then I know you guys saw the email and I talked to Nicole about that, and so they're aware of that. I didn't put everything on here, so. Brian, you know the email I'm referring to, right?
No, say that again.
The email that I sent to you and Nicole and copied the rest of the committee in about collecting the $100 from haulers that only service residential.
I do not remember no.
All right, you go look for an email from me. You've got it. I've already talked to Nicole about it, so it's just, it is what it is. But in the short term, places like Riverside, because they do pick up some businesses. For example, I know Alan uses them for his business, the Frisbee golf park. That's a business, so that puts Riverside into the pay the permit fee category. Okay, anything else on the form?
Question,
Yeah,
is there any state of Maine, do we know of any state of Maine insurance requirement beyond the requirement for registering a vehicle? Showing proof of insurance when you register your vehicle? Pat, you're
I
a
don't-
business person, do you have any requirement for insurance?
I have it's not through the state of Maine, that's through people who contract me. They want to see that you're
Right.
a bidder for a certain, but the state of Maine, no.
yeah, and I don't know that it really matters. Does it, what are your thoughts there, Paul?
I'm just wondering if we need to include it at all. If
Well,
there is no state of Maine requirement, why are we asking that they meet it?
there is a state of Maine requirement. All vehicles have to be insured. There absolutely is
Right.
a state of Maine
So
requirement.
if their vehicle is registered, it's insured.
Not necessarily. It could be lapsed. It could be a lot of things. I think that one's an easy one and kind of a no-brainer. I mean,
How
we're
are
not,
we gonna
sugge-
know if it lapsed?
we have to know what, Brian?
How are we gonna know if their policy has lapsed if we're just asking if they have insurance?
They are initialing that they do have it and it is being signed by someone that's authorized. So should anything happen and we find out that they don't, that gives us a place to hold them accountable and helps protect liability and protects the town.
And what would the consequences be if something happened and we found out they didn't have? I mean,
The
who's
town
gonna
would,
enforce
the town then has the recourse to go out, because if they don't have insurance and something happens and these guys are contracted by the town, let's say something happens to somebody's home or somebody's, who knows
These
what could
guys-
happen.
These guys are not contracted by the town, these are the independent.
Oh, that's right, they are. But
No.
should anything happen, it just keeps us protected. I would say, like asking the number of locations, this one's pretty much a no-brainer. And it doesn't require anything on our part. I mean, that's the beauty of it. Just, do you have insurance? Yes. Sign that everything's truthful.
I see what you're saying. But is a private hauler gonna do anything that's gonna damage the town? They're more likely gonna damage another vehicle or just general
I
traffic.
don't,
The town or the state or the county is gonna
I don't know.
go after, or I'm not
You
sure.
know,
They would do to the
possibly
town.
they could go after the town.
I-
Also think about, we're not sure what our model is gonna be next year. I'm not seeing a downside to having it there.
I guess my only. It's not that I disagree with the concept, it's. I'm trying to look at this through the eyes of the hauler. And as opposed to the way we're looking at it, and if I'm looking at this, I'm looking at compliance with state of Maine insurance requirements for your business. What insurance requirements? Is it unemployment insurance requirements? Is it automobile insurance requirements? What insurance requirements? So that's like, I'm not saying we should necessarily eliminate it. I'm just saying if we're gonna say it, I think we should be a little more specific as opposed to what exactly we're asking.
Vehicle
All right,
insurance.
what do you suggest?
Because I don't know what insurance we're kind of looking for. I honestly don't have any input at this point in time. I'm just saying this could be interpreted in many different ways. And before we put this out, we might want to be a little more specific about it. So we might say a commercial liability insurance with up to $1 million coverage or something, but just
Yeah, I
saying
don't know.
insurance is
I-
very
Yeah,
vague.
we could say commercial liability insurance up to the limits or to the limits required by the state.
There is
I wouldn't
no-
want to say up to 1 million because I'm not sure the state requires that, and I don't think
I'm
we
not
want
sure
to
the
put,
state requires any insurance, so like.
Just for vehicle registration.
If we're having, so for every project that we do for work, we do have an insurance waiver, probably one that Pat sees. And for every job, we might adjust that depending on the size of the job. Some job might be $500,000. Some jobs it might be $10 million. Some jobs it might be more. So depending on the project that we work with, depends on the insurance limit that we're gonna want to enforce. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't think there is an actual minimum, well. There could be a state minimum requirement, what I'm saying is I don't know what that is, so
Well-
without, I think, being a little more educated on it. We just might wanna hold off a little bit, maybe circle back to next meeting and adding a little more specificity to it.
okay,
I
then
think.
do
Great.
I get to assign you to investigate it and look at specificity?
I can try to, I mean. That's about the most I can do, cause I'm not an insurance agent, I mean, there's one in my building. I'll walk upstairs and I'll ask him real quick,
There you go.
You-
so
Beautiful.
that,
And the question they're gonna ask you is, well, what are you trying to have to make sure they have coverage for?
yeah.
It's like.
Well, you're just asking what the state requires.
They don't
I
require
think-
any-
Yes, it does. You have to have proof of insurance to register your vehicle. Correct. That's all.
Yep, that's right. So that's right.
And if the
But then
answer is
you-
that, yes,
But then you can let your insurance lapse.
That's right.
But then you,
And I think,
that's felony, or not a felony, but a misdemeanor or something, and
right.
they'll come after you for that.
That's your responsibility.
Yeah. Because if you do not pay your vehicle insurance, the vehicle insurance sends you a notice, say if we do not get this payment in 7 days or whatever, we will send a notice to your Department of Motor Vehicles, and then the state knows about it. That's how that works. Trust me. I found out.
Been there.
Yeah.
I have
So
kind of,
I mean, I think we're worrying a little bit too much, and as a committee, we gotta look at what are the damages, how does this affect the town? And I don't know
well,
that.
here's my thought, Pat. And I put this in for a couple of reasons. One, I believe Leah, when she talked to us, mentioned, do you check insurances? So that kind of led me there, and I'd have to go back and look. I'm not saying 100%, but I believe she did. But also, I mean, protecting the town also means protecting town citizens, even if they don't use the town services. Is there a way that we can protect citizens that are doing this just by saying, hey, do you have insurance? And should anything happen, and that citizen can find the form that we have that says they said they have insurance, they don't have insurance, it gives them an extra leg. I mean, we are asking for locations that we don't really need. I kind of feel it's a good thing to have in, but I'm absolutely 100% open to, if we want to specify it a little more, if we want to, and again, it doesn't cost any work on our end, and it potentially offers just a very small layer of protection for private citizens that happen to get in a pickle, and the carrier doesn't have insurance and they said they did.
Yeah, I was trying to think along a parallel line. Doug Turtelot's got dump trucks running around the roads. We don't charge him a fee. If his dump truck runs into somebody or crashes through somebody's garage or falls into their septic tank, that's his problem.
But Paul, that's a different issue.
That's a different thing because we're not permitting him.
I don't think that's a true equivalency, because
The
this
other
is,
thing is that we don't permit him.
he's not covered under any town ordinances. Commercial haulers are covered under town ordinances, and we've discussed this as a committee several times, that we want them to pay a permit fee. And
Right.
legal has told us we have to have something in place a little bit. She talked about a process. I'm hoping that just a very simple beef up to the form would be good enough.
I suggest we table it and go circle back next meeting and see if.
Yeah, if we, oops, sorry, if we table it, I can call, some of the other towns that I deal with and see what their requirements are.
Okay. So
Oh,
Paul is gonna
got
talk,
it.
you're gonna walk upstairs and talk to the insurance guy and just ask for any input, Paul?
Yeah, I'll just ask a general question, and maybe he says something, maybe he says nothing, but it's more than what I know now.
The sticking point is us issuing a permit, which means the state, the town has sanctioned this person.
Right.
That's the sticking point of it.
If we charge them $100, we are doing some sanctioning. And that was exactly Leah's point. If we're charging that permit fee, that's why we talked about it so many times. Was the view worth the climb? And everyone said, yes, it was. So that's where we're going. If we didn't say anything about commercial haulers in the ordinance or didn't look for that permit fee, I mean, we could let it all go. And Brian would just have to work as best he could to try to get information. I mean, some of this is also, it will help Brian get information. All right, so we'll table it and talk about it next week, and in 2 weeks.
I won't be here for that meeting. I think we talked about that meeting and a half ago or 2 meetings ago, but I will be sure to pass along what I was informed.
Okay, since on that meeting, and I was gonna mention this, since Nicole is coming, is she gonna be running it then?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah, Nicole said she was gonna come because remember, we were gonna talk about, May 8th was when we were gonna talk about how to design a subsidy program that doesn't add administrative burden. And so I already connected with Nicole. She said, yep, she's got it on her calendar. So since she's planning on it, you know, maybe we can have her, you know, staff us for that meeting. You know, last time she did, we got a lot of good information, so that's not a bad thing. I mean, from the different perspective. I wouldn't ask for any solid waste stuff, Brian, that's you, but from kind of the administrative stuff.
I'll be here.
Brian, will you double check with Nicole on that?
Yeah, well, she said she'll be at the meeting.
Yeah, but let her know you won't, so ask her if she'll stay beyond
will.
just that one item on the agenda.
I will be at the meeting.
Oh, you will, I'm sorry, who was it? That's my bad, my bad. Who was it that said they weren't gonna be, who's not gonna be at the meeting?
Hold on.
Oh, okay. Then Paul, can you send a note along with what you find from your insurance person?
Yeah, I'll pass that along before that happens. I could go to town for a day, so.
Okay. I actually know an agent too, but I'll leave it to you. And if need be, I'll make connect. If you don't get anything from your agent, just send me a note telling me that you don't really have anything, and I'll ask someone that I know that's also in the business, in the commercial
Yep.
business. All right, all set on that one?
Okay.
Revised,
Annual fee
what,
and
which,
this is-
where, okay,
on the
Paul,
permit.
what are you
Permit
talking about?
application.
Okay, oh, so
permit
we're not
applica-
done with it. Okay,
Permit application says annual fee $100. And the draft of the rules on the last page says commercial hauler who engages in regularly scheduled collection $100,
Okay.
commercial hauler who engages in ad hoc collection $100. So it's
Yeah,
a
this-
flat fee of $100.
okay, a couple of things going on here. That's a good pickup. The form will change each year. Right now, the fee is $100. If that changes in the next year, the ordinance doesn't specify because that's something that is set by the select board. So
Right.
on the fee itself, that's something that would have to change if and when the select board changes that. So I think on the form itself, that's just something that will change whenever that changes.
Right, when it says hauler fee for 2025, is that
Yeah.
fiscal year, calendar year?
That would be calendar.
Yeah, they collect them calendar year as opposed to fiscal year. I don't know why they run it separately, but they do.
Okay, so this would be effective in 2025, and if our new ordinance is approved, that would take effect in January of 2025.
That's what we're hoping.
Okay, and our ordinance says that there will be a differential fee for regularly scheduled
Okay, doesn't
pickups
the
versus ad
ordinance,
hoc pickups.
doesn't the ordinance say there may be a differential fee?
No, it says there will, I believe.
Because, okay, the rules itself at this moment. I think the fees, I can't remember, did I put it in? The same fee was going to be there.
What it says in the ordinance. Section 7.3.1. Recycling rules shall reflect that one-time pickup fees shall differ from regularly scheduled pickup fees.
Okay, so that's just a thing we need to change.
So we either need to change the draft ordinance. Or change the application and the rules.
Yep, I just made a note. We'll make that change that we'll just add the word that the fee may differ. And that gives the select board flexibility.
Okay, so that'll be in the ordinance.
Yeah, there's one other small thing I found in the ordinance that when we get to the next draft, that needs to change one word that, I think there's a word here or there, so, but that's a good catch, good catch. Okay, are we ready to move on to the rules document? I went through the ordinance and tried to find out you know, you know, tried to see where we referred to things that will be outlined in the rules. Some of this stuff, I mean, we don't have enough info on, for instance, other fees, not sure, we need to do that. You know, the bulky waste fees, we don't have those, but we did talk about publishing the fees in the rules itself. I tried to take a tag at it. As you can see, I've got the commercial haulers are both showing the same thing at this point. What do you guys, I mean, is this a good start? Do we need to do more? Brian, my thought is that I probably need to sit down with you at some point, you know, maybe in your office, maybe when I'm back in town, and really go through some of the things. Like, I'm not sure I captured everything correctly on transfer station. Obviously the fees, I have no idea. Other fees, I don't know what other fees there might be. So thoughts on the rule, the draft rule document, is that a place to start? I mean, what? Do you guys have a chance to look at it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want the substantive things or typos and et cetera?
Whatever, go for it. Let's do substantive discussions first, because typos, this is such a rough draft. This is just the first shot that I think, you know, we're going to make changes.
Recyclable material separation, this is on the second page.
Yep.
Halfway. Where it talks about separating out corrugated cardboard and metals.
Mm-hmm.
Do we want that in the rules or do we want that in the list?
We do talk about, I believe in the ordinance, we talk about having that in the rules. Now the list will be more specific, and Brian, when we get to the lists, and I obviously haven't done a draft on the list first, I'm really going to need some of your help and maybe some of your staff's help, particularly the ones that work with public that know what items are not as clear on our current list as maybe they could be. But we're not, we'll deal with the lists when I get a chance to do them. And I think also, I mean, the rules is talking to people, it's telling them why we're separating.
under the next section, compostable materials,
Yeah,
it says,
yeah, I don't know why it says negative.
I was gonna ask, what is negative?
That's
Organic
typo.
improvement.
Have no idea. The word processing program likes changing words. I'm gonna stick with that. It's a gremlin in there.
Okay, under permit. Says no more than 2 permits may be healed.
That's a typo.
And I think that might have been in the rules too. I noticed it occurred twice somewhere. Oh, it's down below under permit, same thing, heal. So,
do we wanna restrict the number of permits per household? I mean, if somebody has 8 vehicles, they wanna,
They're they're restricted now, which is why we put it in. It's also in the ordinance. And we just picked that up from before. I would say that's up to you guys. I don't care. I will say that one of the things the select board is thinking of, they're thinking of charging per sticker. So if you have 8 vehicles and they're thinking like charging, what I heard is like $5 to $10, you're talking $40 to $80. So, but that could be someone's choice and let them do that.
yeah,
Exactly.
it's a choice, I don't. You know, I only require it on the vehicle that's visiting the site. You know, I don't care how many decals they get or how many vehicles they sticker.
Okay. Committee, what do you think? We'll have to take that out of the ordinance too, but that's fine. We can do that.
Well, man.
on,
Couple questions here.
Hold on one sec.
Yep.
Okay, what's next?
Program description. Under trash removal. Does the town actually? Page 1, trash removal program description.
Okay.
So it will provide curbside collection services. How do we want to
Yep.
word that? Actually provide the services? Do we say we facilitate the service? Because we don't actually technically provide the service.
Well, we do. We contract it out. Of course we do. Just because we provide something doesn't mean that we physically have to do it. If you contract, they're your agent, so they're acting under you. So of course we do.
Right. The next one, and only bring this up because driving down the road on the way over here, I kind of noticed this. Is the 30 gallons limit for each bag.
Yeah.
And this goes back to I know this is a moment as well, but I figured bring them just because I saw it front and center on my way over here. I see a lot of 55-gallon bags, but they're just not full. Right. And I'm only saying this because I you know, we're seeing it. So are we okay that, but then again, it's a 55-gallon bag, it's not full, so it's only 30 gallons in volume, so that's okay.
It's the poundage that we care about, isn't it?
Well, Brian, it's in there because you requested it when we were drafting that section.
It's
So-
in there because it's in the contract.
that's something Plummer requested.
It's in the contract, yes.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why, is because a lot of people that use the 50-gallon bags or 55-gallon, whatever they are, they load them right up. And then they're backbreakers.
Yeah.
So they're over the 25 pound.
Usually, yes. And you're right, there are some that's only half full and
That's the only reason I'm saying it's like, it's not you on the side of the road, right? I see it every week. You see it every week. There's a couple households that do it, you know, religiously.
Does he ever not take a bag because it's too heavy?
yes,
Cause I always use 55-gallon bags, that's what fits in my trash can, cause that's what has to go down the road the night before, so coons don't get.
Oh, right.
But it's never over 25 pounds, I don't,
Right.
so am I in violation? Yes,
Yeah, I mean, it's his contract,
right,
it, it would be, I mean. Yeah, I mean, technically, yes, you are.
But he doesn't care as long as it's not too heavy.
That's in
Please.
the ordinance and it was in the old ordinance. So if we're talking about making changes like that, we're talking about changing the draft ordinance as well.
Yeah.
I wonder, have we ever really had a problem? I mean, that hasn't been dealt with. I mean, obviously Pat's using bigger bags, but he's not stuffing them, so he's not having a problem.
I'll bring that to the contractor's attention and.
don't alert him.
Sorry, I have a responsibility. Now it's been brought to my attention.
Oh, stop.
I just gotta say, he doesn't care as long as it's too heavy.
Be my assumption, yeah. He cares more about 25 pounds than the volume of the bag.
I mean, this is the rules document. We could say some people use bags that are larger, however, they cannot be stuffed full. I don't
I
know.
don't
They
think
should,
you do
they should
that.
only,
So, yeah, I would leave that right out.
right.
We have a contract in effect that says 30-gallon bags.
I just, yeah, it was staring at me on the way here, so.
And we have an ordinance that's in effect that says 30-gallon bags. We have the 94 ordinance says it. And we have the draft that says that. So, is this something we just leave it as it is? I mean, it hasn't caused an issue. It's in the contracts. Plumber is the one that, or whoever, the hauler is the one who would, monitor it. If there are bags that are problematic, he doesn't take them.
Okay, bottom of page 2, commercial hauler.
Wait a minute, let's finish the first item, or is the commercial hauler doesn't talk about the gallon limit. What did we decide on that before we move on? And then Paul will get right to that. I would think we can leave it as is, but that's.
Yeah, I think that's how we left it. Yep,
Let's leave them dogs alive.
Yeah, it's not broken, and Brian, we're swearing you to secrecy, although it's on live stream. All right, Paul, what's your commercial hauler?
This is any person or business accepting the municipal hauler who is engaged in the collection and transportation of solid waste shall pay an annual fee as follows.
Yeah.
So if I have a bunch of stuff that I'm gonna take to West Bath, and I say, hey, Pat, I'm going to West Bath. Do you have anything you'd like me to take?
Get my number.
And you say, sure, and I come over and pick it up. Then I am engaged in the collection and transportation of solid waste.
Are you charging him? Are you charging Pat? Are you doing it for profit?
Doesn't say anything about whether I'm charging him.
It does in
Just as any person who
it
is
does in the
engaged
ordinance.
in collection.
It absolutely does in the ordinance.
I see what you're saying, any person.
Who's engaged in the business of collection. Or
In the ordinance, and remember, this is attached to the ordinance, commercial hauler, any person who is not municipal hauler engaged in the collection and transportation of solid waste for a fee or other compensation. Now, we can add for a fee or other compensation in there, but that's what's in the ordinance.
Yeah.
It's a little redundant, but it's communication, so I'm definitely in favor.
And then the other thing, if we're gonna have a flat fee of $100, at least for the foreseeable future, we don't need to delineate commercial hauler for regularly scheduled and commercial hauler for ad hoc. We just say, we'll pay an annual fee of $100.
I think if we are leaving, and we are leaving in the ordinance, we're gonna change it from there will be separate fees to say there may be. If we are having an ordinance that says there can be separate fees, I think we need to be very clear as to what those fees may be.
Right. So are we gonna set a separate fee for ad hoc collection?
It's up to the select board. We may not do it at this point, but they may choose to do it in 2 years.
Want to recommend that they do it or not?
I, on the fees, I don't know, I think, Brian, you had a big hand in recommending fees before. And you can just recommend at this point it's separate. I know we've had some, I'll say, discussions with the ad hoc that we're not willing to pay, and I'm wondering if they're willing to pay if we say, hey, since you only come every once in a while, your payment's only $50.
I honestly, I think I would just leave it as the top line written here, commercial hauler who engages in regular, well, yeah, it's different, maybe we just take out the regularly scheduled. Cause I don't know of any businesses that's only gonna come into Bodenham once a year and pick up something.
What about dump guys?
But they're here more than once a year.
Hey, see them
But
on
they're not,
Facebook.
they're,
Somebody picked up for scrap metal, anybody got some?
Can we just
Yeah,
take
and
out the regularly and leave schedule? Because if someone says, yeah, I'm gonna come over Tuesday, and pick up all your stuff.
Right,
Dump guys, well, that's scheduled,
right.
but it's not regularly scheduled, not every Tuesday or whatever.
but Pat, what we were addressing here, and we may not do it, was that there could be separate fees if you're regularly scheduled. Riverside comes every week, every 2 weeks, versus those that only come on an ad hoc basis. If we make the change that you're suggesting, we're going to need to change the ordinance to say there is no delineation on whether you come periodically or if you come scheduling. And we had talked about that, and when we talked about it, we thought that it was a good idea to have 2 separate categories, even if, particularly in the beginning, we were charging the same. I mean, maybe that's changed.
I'm having trouble recalling that part of it, but that's all right.
I might have it in
Yeah.
the minutes somewhere. You can read all those minutes.
Right now, they're paying us nothing, right?
Some are not paying us.
And some are paying us.
But
Yeah,
that's a
most-
different issue.
Yeah, most are paying, there's a couple that
You know,
are not.
But that's a different issue. Whether they pay or not now is an enforcement issue. It is not a regulation issue.
Right, it comes down to what's that fee gonna be, what do we recommend for the ad hoc thing, so, yeah.
I can say there are some communities that do not issue a permit at all. There's no fee, there's no
Yeah.
permit. And then there is a wide array of fees, from $10 to $250. Depending on the community.
Yeah. I would think that'd be almost impossible to administer. If someone's gonna come up and pick up a bunch of stuff out of
Right.
curiosity, how does the
Honestly,
town get in touch? How is the town even involved?
Yeah, exactly, because, they're not gonna call me and say, hey, we're gonna come up there and pick something up, So how do you enforce it? You can't.
Again, that's an enforcement, not a policy. Right now, we're talking policy. So it looks like we're revisiting the issue as to whether or not we want separate fees for people like Riverside that come every week, every 2 weeks, and people that just come on an as-needed basis.
I say charge everybody, but,
We are not
You can't-
disagreeing with charging everybody.
yeah,
What we're saying
it-
is, do we want to have the flexibility in the future to be able to have separate fees for people that are just coming on an as needed basis versus those that are coming on a regularly scheduled basis?
I guess I'll ask this question. Does it matter at this point in time? Because if that decision is made, the rules could always be amended because the rules are gonna be amended likely up to once a year anyway, considering the trash tag prices dictated
Yeah.
in here, which is town meeting. So I guess what I'm saying is, do we even need to figure this out right now, or can it just be amended at a later date? That's a non-discussion item.
I think I have an opinion that I change it.
It's really tough taking notes when you're doing that, Pat.
Yeah, that's. I mean,
All
we're
right.
talking about the dump. And guys like that, right,
Well, and anybody
Right.
that does, yeah,
they're here more than just once a year.
Oh, yeah.
So I mean, I don't know why it's a problem just to have it in. The ordinance that they should be paying $100 a year like everybody else. And
so what you're saying
obviously,
is we don't want the flexibility to be able to differentiate in the future without changing the ordinance back, which is a bigger deal, and changing the rules, which is not as big a deal.
I'm all about flexibility. So I see what- yeah.
Flexibility would lead us to say that we want it to remain, that we have the categories, and sometimes the fees might be the same, but that gives us the flexibility to make the fees separate and different if we want.
In the name of flexibility, yes, I just don't know why we would ever want to change it, but,
Yeah, we've talked about it a couple of times, but
you know.
all right, so Pat's for keeping it as it is. Paul and Paul, okay with
Fine.
leaving it as it is? You want to, I mean,
I'm
what do you
fine,
think?
like I said, I'm fine with keeping this, if it needs to be changed later, it can
Yeah,
be changed later.
later we change.
Okay, and I will make a note that the language in the ordinance will say that the fees may differ for scheduled versus as needed. Because the ordinance needs to support that. Okay,
I like that. May.
more thoughts on the rules. And again, I think, Brian, when I get back in town, I'll connect with you and let's find some time that we can go over and flesh out the stuff, because I took a stab at it. And I think I even said somewhere in the rules that need Brian's help.
Yeah, I saw that. Couple more ones here, under trash tag, there's a note that says the town may establish a subsidy program.
Yep,
The ordinance says shall.
okay.
Next is, do we want to say anything about list acceptable waste or indicate anything about bulky waste day in here? in
Here or in here?
the rules.
In the rules, okay.
If it deals with money, it needs to be in the rules. So if there's anything else, once we get the transfer station up and going, if there's anything else that deals with fees, it needs to be in the rules. That's the way the ordinance is set up. Any fees are in the rules. And since we have separate fees for some of the bulky waste, that's why I put that way.
We have people, white goods
We do have fees.
and construction waste.
We have fees.
Yeah, that's why I need
Not
to,
all inclusive though, I mean, it's because you just can't put together a price sheet that covers
Everything.
everything that shows up.
one of my thoughts on the lists, and I can include it in here too, is to put, when we have the list saying, we mean for this list to be as comprehensive as possible. However, at times there may be an unusual item that you will not find on the list. Please contact the solid waste department. And we can say the same thing here. We intend this fee list to be as comprehensive as possible. However, there may be an occasion where your item is not listed. Please contact the solid waste department. Does
Yeah,
that
that's-
sound like a reasonable approach?
Yeah, that's what you have in here. If you have an item that is not listed below, contact the solid waste department.
Oh, dang, I'm good.
You've done it.
More so than that.
And that would take care of carpets and furniture and.
Right, so I brought one of our price sheets. Our price sheet covers the most common items coming in. But if you go over there and, look at what we received last weekend, you're like, how do you do it?
There are some uncommon things that I saw.
There are very uncommon things over there. We even got a boat in.
Jeez.
I think the digging, I hope.
No metal. So
Metal.
it will go in the metal.
Like a call splitter.
Actually, like maybe 10, yeah.
Yeah. Aluminum.
So that's the note of listing other acceptable stuff, though. We're gonna put that in here, sounds like no. Or are you? Well, it was just more of a general question. I want to list acceptable recyclable material or anything like that.
We were gonna do that in list form, and I just haven't gotten to the list yet. Guys, I did a lot.
That's fine. I was just, I'm talking, when you said to Paul, learn to contact stuff, so.
Yeah, I've got copies of what the lists are right now, but they can be refined. I think that we had someone comment last meeting that maybe we could do a little better job of refining what light bulbs are accepted versus not.
That has already been taken care of.
Yeah, but as we develop the lists, we need to write them so that we're not running into problems like that again. So although that one
Yeah.
issue's been taken care of, that's great. We want to make sure we have a list that's a little more user-friendly to try to avert some of those things. I mean, it's not going to be a tough thing to do. But the list will be different than what we've got right now. Anything else on this draft of the rules?
Wordsmithing things, but I don't want to go in them right now. Unless you want to.
We're gonna have lots of opportunity. We've got a really big item in front of us. Why don't we take a stab at revising the draft of the rules, given your input that you just had, And then I'll work with Brian on some other stuff. And if there are other things in the rules, next time we look at the draft, because we really do have a big one in front of us now. Is that okay, guys? Okay, I did have one thing I wanted to talk to you about on the, just really quickly on the ordinance itself. I followed up with Nicole and finally got some notes back from her. Let me read the email that she said about getting this on getting the new updated ordinance on the November ballot. She said the board, meaning the select board, needs to approve the warrant article for the November town meeting warrant on their August 27th meeting. I would suggest bringing the request to the board in June, July, and then bringing the final proposed ordinance to their first August meeting at the latest. As for public hearing, it would need to be held within 10 days of November 5th. However, I would suggest an additional hearing prior to October 5th. And we were thinking of doing one, if not more, before then. When October 5th is when absentee ballot begins. According to the law, the board would need to hold the required public hearing. Their regular meeting would fall on October 22nd, so that would need to be adjusted. So it needs to be a public hearing, and the select board, we need to figure out the timing of it. I'll talk to her, but I just wanted you guys to know what she said. And I'll just copy and paste that into the minutes so that you can all see it. Okay, so now that's just an FYI. Now's the big one. I know I'd asked you guys to think of ideas to ask for other towns. I put some stuff out there. I haven't heard anything back. So I don't know what you guys, I mean, that was one of the things to do since the, in the 2 weeks since our last meeting. I have both put together, which is what we'd ask, the list of neighboring towns. And again, I think, as I said, when I sent the list out, I just put all the neighboring towns on. I think as we go through some of this, we'll decide, yeah, we're not going to call Augusta. That's, we're not going to do that. We might call Bath and figure them out. We're not going to maybe call Lewiston. So there are two things. And maybe we talk about what we ask them first, up to you, or we talk about the towns and who's assigned to call. I would say that maybe we could take a month, once we get the assignments. By the way, the phone numbers here I picked up off of the web. So if you have a problem with a phone number, actually it could be a typo too. So, but I tried to make it easy for people calling. So I don't know if you want to talk about what we're going to ask them first, or you want to talk about towns and make assignments and say, what do we knock off? What do we do? What works?
Your list of questions is pretty comprehensive.
Yeah, just a couple questions on that. Do we want to ask them if they do a permit and a fee for commercial haulers?
I guess. Backing up here, like what's the real goal? Is it to do curbside collection or just general trash removal, or is it for more of the commercial hauler type?
No, at this point, you're right, it's not commercial hauler. At this point, it is, how do towns handle trash? It's information gathering on town-sponsored programs, not necessarily commercial hauler fees.
So I think
And
the
it's-
list,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I think the list is it's very comprehensive. I mean, what the four questions that I really thought of, in general is, what are you doing? How's it being paid for? How much does it cost? And who does it? I
Okay.
think that's really, and then you have some other stuff in here, which is good too. Like, are you
And
happy with what you're doing? Like, some pretty good follow-up question. Um,
well, and I gotta
one,
say, I mean, follow-up is right. I mean, some of this is just gonna be open-ended, and if they give you more information or what they say leads you to asking for more information, go for it.
yeah. So, do we want to ask the general question? Because you certainly do come across in here, like, how is it being paid for? Do we want
Go,
to talk?
yep, go ahead.
Do we want to ask what the cost of the program is in general,
Um,
Like a total
though?
piece of town budget, or if they do a trash tag or a trash bag thing, we want to know how much they paid for
The-
bag.
Or so, and the reason I'm asking is like, I feel as though, let's just say we call up some town. And the town is very happy. This is what they're doing, and then we find out that it costs $800,000 a year. That's almost a moot data point because we're not gonna do anything that costs $800,000 a year.
yeah, but in order, and I think that's one of the reasons I didn't put down the total cost because there's so many different variables in it.
Yeah,
How-
yeah, they're really.
There are so many different variables, and right now all we're doing is trying to gather information so we can explore. And if we explore something from a town that says, hey, we love it, it's great, and as we really get into that option, we figure it's $800,000, we can say, yeah, not happening. So I don't know if this is the time to cut anything out, or if this is just the time to, if you're doing kind of project management stuff, it's called exploring the environment. So getting all the information in that then you can determine what you need to do. I mean, we could ask the question, feel free. I think these discussions are going to be free form.
Yeah.
But I personally not sure that information is going to yield us a lot at this point. I mean, we can put it in and you guys can ask it. I don't care, but
Yeah,
I'm just,
I think there was just an open discussion on, do we wanna put that into our conversation? I don't feel strongly one way or the other.
it will definitely be part of the conversation at some point. I mean, that's without doubt. That will be, but it may not be a conversation with that particular town. It may be a conversation with that hauler. And when we find out what their model is and we find out what the costs are,
Yep. So I'm assuming, next part of where we're going is divvying up this list.
Well,
yeah, anything. So the questions are all set.
yeah, one question, when we get, like if I call, well, all right, let's say we talk to 25 towns. And how are we gonna aggregate that information and make any sense out of it?
I'll take a crack at it.
Oh, okay. I don't mind putting in a spreadsheet if that's really what it was.
Yeah.
But it'd be kind of bullet pointed. I mean, if it's a 1-page summary of what the model is, then we get boiled down into curbside pickups.
Curbside pickup
Or
central collection,
annual collection.
12 of these and 18 of those.
Or curbside and single, yeah. Gotta simplify it there, but yeah. And I think to make sense, that's probably might be where you're going. We're kind of need to have that condensed version.
Yeah, because if we have 18 questions times 25 towns is a lot of data points and we're
We'll,
only
we'll take a
really.
look at, I imagine that
Yeah.
we're gonna have a lot that is similar. Imagine we're gonna have a lot overflowing or overlapping.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
that's just my take, is that I think we're probably gonna have a bunch of overlapping. My thought on this form, and you guys tell me, is, I mean, whatever towns I'm taking, I was gonna, take notes right, notes right on the form. I wasn't gonna type out, I was just gonna handwrite, as I'm talking to somebody. I was gonna print out, however many of these that I happen to need and just take notes. I mean, you guys obviously can do it any way you want. That was just my thought on how I was thinking of approaching it.
Yeah,
Okay, so list of questions as they are sound pretty good, understanding that since as a lot of this is open-ended, if a logical follow-up question you think of it, ask it, even if it's not on the form.
do we?
Make sense?
care? Do we want to know if the town also has a recycling program?
It doesn't matter for this project. We could ask that question though, just as I mean, we're gathering information. What do you guys think?
If you're on the phone with them already, I mean. If we need the info or something. That's an easy question.
Might be interesting down the road.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy question to ask. You have
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of that, that was an interesting article you sent over, Wendy. Thank you.
Yeah, wasn't it? All right, so I'll edit the form and see if I can slip in just, do you have a recycle program and just any general information on that? I'll see if I can fit it somewhere in here. I'd hate to get us to 2 pages. I'll make the spaces we write in smaller. Write small, fellas. All right. Excuse me. All right, the towns. I both did a Google search, towns nearby Bodenham, and then also did the map. And this is what I came up with. If there are towns that you think I didn't include, we can certainly put them on, not a problem. My thought was maybe first we go through and say, what are we gonna draw the line through? I think initially anything over 10,000 in the population. And then that's Bodenham's population figure is from the same data source as these guys. So I think Bodenham's population from another data source is different, but I wanted to show it for so comparable to the same data that was used for this. All right, so should we just go through the top? Should we cut off Auburn?
Yep.
Yeah, we cut off the over 10,000, it's Auburn, Brunswick,
Augusta.
Lewiston.
I almost want to ask Brunswick since they're so close. Lewiston, I'm fine with cutting off. So that's the first take. What do you guys think about Brunswick? I know they're big, but they're so close.
Population density, I'm not sure.
If you drop them off, I think I counted that would leave 28,000. There's 4 of us. 4
Okay.
times 7, that'd be 7 apiece. Can we just go down as knocking out the people and say, so and so will take the first 7?
Yep.
Can we
That's fine.
just to shorten up this?
Hey, I thought since Paul D wasn't at our last meeting, he's not going to be at our next meeting. I think he should take 10. Don't you think? And we'll cut the rest of it. All right. So who was?
I have a list that I would like to do. Because I want to do face to face with them. I actually want to go to the facility.
Oh, cool.
So that takes a bunch more. Good.
It only takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 off.
21.
21 divided by 4.
Five now, something to do. Yes.
6.
This sounds, I mean,
Okay, which ones do you want to do, Brian?
I want to do Lisbon, Litchfield, West Gardner.
Wait a minute, Litchfield, Lisbon. It's at West Gardner, so you're not taking them in. That's 3. And by the way, which one did you say, Topsom?
Topsom,
Okay.
Richmond.
You know, Brian, if I'm available when you're going to any of these, I'd love to come with you. I mean, and let you drive, that's fine. I mean, drive the
That's good.
process. You don't have to drive the car, but I'm sorry, what one did you say?
Dresden,
Okay,
Richmond. And
Yep.
I do want to do Brunswick because I want to talk to them about the model they're doing right now.
okay,
Because they have multiple resources. They're using Toronto, they're using Casella, they're using some of their own town trucks.
okay.
To do
I'd love to-
curbside.
I'd love to go with you when you're doing a couple of those, Brian. So when we talk to flesh out the rules kind of thing a little bit, let's figure out if that works for you. I mean, if I'm around and not interfering at all, I'd love to go with you and just hear some of them. Okay, so that leaves Bath, Bowden, Damerscottham, Durham, Farmingdale. Who wants to take the list I just wrote off?
No, I'll do them.
Okay, next, Freeport, Gardner, Gray, Harpswell, Monmouth.
Janet Falls.
Paul, Pat?
Yeah, That's fine. So that was starting at farming? No,
Freeport.
Freeport.
Starting at Freeport. And I'll update this list and send it to you guys. So that was Paul Dennis.
No, Pat.
I think we both kind of said something, but you spoke louder.
Sorry. Okay, that gives us New Gloucester, Phippsburg, Pittston, Pownell, Sabattis, Turner. And I don't know if I'm breaking these up evenly or not. We can swap too, as long as we got it covered. I don't care if people swap. So Paul D, is that okay for you?
Sure, down to Turner.
Down to Turner?
So
And
that's
then I'll take
Monmouth.
what's on the backside other than West Gardner. Okay, now is a month sufficient time?
I would think.
Okay, so it's not going to be our May 5th meeting. Our meeting after that is not our May 8th meeting, but the meeting that's after that. Hold on, I'm pulling it up. So May 22nd, again, I'll be zooming in on that. So if we have it done by May 22nd, I tell you what, if we're just going to do paper stuff, because we'll put it on the agenda for the 22nd to talk about how it's going. But if you could just leave the paper copies of whatever you do with Brian, because I'm also gone that week. I'm back on like the 24th or 25th. I'll pick them up from Brian, or Brian, you could leave them in the town office. I'll pick them up and I'll start seeing if I can do aggregating. So what I'm suggesting is the meeting on the 22nd, let's touch base both in the meeting of the 8th and the meeting of the 22nd, just say how things are going. Nothing other than what are you finding out? Because we may find out at that point hey, we're asking this particular question and we're not getting really good data, maybe we don't need to ask it again. So we'll touch base on both the 8th and the 22nd. And if by the 22nd you have your written copies, you can give them into Brian and I will pick them up from Brian when I'm back in town. Does that work for everyone?
Yep.
Okay, terrific. Then the only other thing we have is our next meeting's May 8th.
All right.
Anything else from anybody? Okay, I'll get some stuff.
Whether
some
you,
stuff
this
out.
like a significant amount of work that you kind of put in behind the scenes, so I'll say thank you for that.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh,
Amen.
thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. All right, Brian, I'm back in town next week. I'll give you a call. We'll figure when we can sit down and kind of flesh out the rules and maybe the lists a little bit, or at least figure out how to attack that. Next meeting, May 8th. Anything else from anybody or call to adjourn?
Second,
Okay, and Paul Dennis, I know you're not going to be with us on the 8th, so we'll just talk about you.
yep.
Cool. All right, thanks, everybody. I'm ending
See
now.
ya.
Thanks.
All right.
Good night.